We're here. So we are going to talk about an idea that came into being about this time last year, actually February of last year. But first, I'm going to let Mr. Carlos Phillips say hello and greet everyone.
Hello. So mission accomplished, Cheryl.
Oh, come on now, Carlos.
No, good morning, everyone. Glad that you joined us this morning for this Zoom meeting. If you're like me, you've had more than your fair share of Zoom meetings over the past year, but I promise you, you'll gain some valuable information on this particular Zoom call. I'm going to learn a little bit more about our Launch Greenville program and opportunities for your organization to engage in that. Launch Greenville has been around now for, I guess, going on 3 years, and it is providing experiential education opportunities for high school juniors and seniors. As you all know, when our younger folks are coming out of high school and college, oftentimes it's hard for them to land on a career because they don't have the experience. Only way they get experience is if employers like you provide them with those opportunities. So this program, in partnership with Greenville County Schools, provides high schoolers with paid internship opportunities, and I want to emphasize the word paid. The paid component of this was very important to us because it removed a key barrier to why many younger folks don't engage in internships. They can't afford to. So the paid component is really important. We've got special programs set up that will help employers engage in the program, and we're excited about that. And we're just thrilled at your interest. I think as you learn more, you'll become more interested, and hopefully you'll take on a couple of the kids. I will also tell you, we've got exponentially more kids signed up to participate in this program than we've had employers to engage. So the kids, I've got 4 kids, and sometimes I question where the heck they came from. But what we're learning, and what has been confirmed for me, is that these kids have drive. They have goals, and this program is helping them to better understand those goals, what they want to do, what they think they may want to do in life, or maybe they change course. During their internship, they're like, I thought I wanted to do this, but maybe I need to go a different direction. So we're really proud of the program, delighted at your interest, and hope that after hearing more about the program today, that you'll decide to engage. Thank you all again.
Thank you, Carlos. We're going to do. I would like for everybody to just quickly introduce themselves and their role and their company, if they are an MBA graduate company. So I am Cheryl Garrison, and I'm the Director of Talent and Workforce Solutions at the Greenville Chamber. And anything related to talent development, retention, attraction, and educational attainment is the space that I am working in, and Launch Greenville falls squarely in that.
Did you say Dr. Cheryl Garrison?
No, sir. Dr. Cheryl Garrison, I am. Thank you, Carlos. So Hank, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. Hank Hyatt with the Greenville Chamber. I work with Carlos and Cheryl on a variety of issues and topics, and a very big proponent of Launch Greenville.
It was his baby. Lorraine, I'm going to let Lorraine and Lori go next.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lorraine Holman. I'm the Regional Career Specialist for Greenville County Schools, and I am the lead point of contact for Launch Greenville within the district.
Yeah. And I'm Lori Hoyer. I am the Work-Based Learning Coordinator that will be servicing Carolina and Berea and be your liaison for this potential program. So my schools that feed into Emory are the schools that I work with, the students I work with, and that's Carolina High, Berea High, Wade Hampton High, Travelers Rest High, and then also Innery Career Center. So my role in this with the Greenville County School District is to connect students with opportunities. And it has been my passion for over 9 years.
All right. Myson, you look like you're next on my list.
Hey, I'm Myson Jones, founder of Hoops Institute and Hoops University. We help basketball trainees and trainers graduate to a higher degree of fulfillment from the game of basketball. And I actually have a few trainees from the Berea high school and middle school area. So this is a pretty exciting opportunity. So thank y'all for letting me be a part of it. And I graduated with the 2020 class of the MBA cohort.
Awesome. Thank you, Mason. Looks like I've got Holly next. Wait, you're muted, Holly.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm Holly Harden with Bright & Co. We've been a part of the Launch Greenville program pretty much since it started, and we've had several interns work with us, and they are awesome. But my role at Bright & Co is I'm chief of staff. So that's why Launch Greenville program falls under me. And our CEO, Jennifer Sutton, graduated from the MBA program 2018, and she's been a coach with the program ever since.
Thank you, Holly. Dr. White.
Good morning, everyone. Anika White, and I'm actually here in two different capacities today. I am a part of the Greenville Chamber, serving as their senior advisor to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. And then I'm also here representing Nika White Consulting. And we're also interested in the Launch Greenville program. And I have my colleague, Lauren DK, that's also joined here today with me to get the information as well.
Thank you, Nika. Shan, it looks like you're next.
Good morning, everyone. Shan Smith with Good Sense Automation. I am an MBA graduate. Good Sense Automation is an engineering company with a focus on robotics and computer-based control systems. We currently serve industries in automotive, food, and appliance manufacturing, and happy to be a part of Launch.
Thank you, Shan. Looks like I've got Robert Chandler next.
Good morning, everyone. This is Robert Chandler. My company is IG Global Sourcing, and I am an MBA graduate, and I'm just excited to be part of this program. I've had some conversation with Cheryl yesterday, and I think it's a great program, and I think it'll be a good opportunity for IG to help in any way we can.
Thank you, Robert. Lauren?
Hello, I'm Lauren DK, and as Nika mentioned, I work with her at NWC. I'm a DEI manager there based out of Atlanta, and just here to learn more about this awesome program.
Thank you, Lauren. And Jeanette, excuse me.
Hey everyone, I'm Jeanette Houchins. I'm here with HIT Services. I am a graduate of the MBA program from 2018, I believe. My company provides interpretation, translation services, and cultural training to different private and government institutions, especially in the area. We work with Greenville County schools and other institutions, and I'm very interested in knowing what the program is.
Thank you. We're glad you're here. Looks like Yuleta is next.
Hi, it's pronounced Yulita. Good morning.
Yulita, I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's no problem. Hey, everybody. I'm Yulita Alston. I'm president of USNS in Greenville. We are a facility maintenance company. We also specialize in janitorial services, and very interested in learning more about Launch Greenville and how we can partner for our talent workforce. We're definitely in growth mode, so it's really exciting. And then in terms of our engagement with the MBA program, we were actually a part of the inaugural class. So we graduated a few years ago and have continued to support that initiative and have also been a coach. It's good to see you guys.
Thank you. And it looks like James Bennett.
Good morning, James Bennett with Upstate Home Care. I'm a graduate of the 2017 class of the MBA program. We're a home care agency where our goal is to provide our clients with a compassionate caregiver that can assist them with their day-to-day needs to help them to remain in their home as long as possible. And looking forward to the presentation today.
Thank you. I think that was everybody. Did that look right, Hank?
Yes, it did.
Okay, awesome. So today's presentation is going to be an overview of Launch Greenville, an introduction into what we are looking at for this pilot program. It is a pilot, so it could change and morph and as we go along, but that's okay. And then also I'm going to give you some details, so don't, there's going to be a few slides that have a lot of content on them, but I'm going to send you an email with that content so that you will have it. But I figured it makes a little more sense to just talk through it together. And that way, if you have questions, please ask. We have the Greenville County Schools experts here. So anything related to the students or the Greenville County Schools role, they can answer. So the Greenville Chamber, this is important. Our vision is a globally competitive upstate economy where businesses succeed and people prosper. So this program is really intended to do both of those things. It is intended to help businesses succeed by building a talent pipeline. And it is also intended to help our students and future workforce be successful and prosper. The why. I think it's always important to establish why we do what we do. Attracting and retaining a skilled workforce is the #1 challenge still, even after COVID, facing employers in Greenville. We're continuing to hear that that is a challenge, and for some companies, even more of a challenge now than it was prior to COVID. In response to this challenge, the Greenville Chamber is facilitating a business-led approach to shrink the skills gap and strengthen our workforce through strategic, data-driven talent recruitment and workforce development initiatives. Launch Greenville is one of these initiatives. As Carlos mentioned, Launch Greenville started about 3 years ago. We did in some ways lose a year last year in terms of student and employer engagement, but thankfully we were able to take some of that time and work on our processes and build a structure that we feel like will support growth moving forward, both on the chamber side and on the school district side. So let's talk about what work-based learning is. Work-based learning is an intentional learning within a work context that is created through purposeful relationships with employers that help students identify, refine, and reach their goals while developing and strengthening their 21st century work skills. Work-based learning happens through these structured experiences in order to enhance current and future employment opportunities and develop in students a career mindset. So the partnership was born about 3 years ago between Greenville Chamber and Greenville County Schools. There's fun details that we can talk about sometime about how this came into being, but the ultimate goal of this program is to connect youth and young adults with business and industry for these work-based learning experiences. And I use the term work-based learning to cover a lot of different other terms like internships, co-ops, and apprenticeships. So companies have different ways that they choose to engage with students, but work-based learning is our umbrella term. So this program, we received some funding from Bank of America last year. And as I mentioned, this idea sort of came to me in February of last year. Bank of America had previously, we received money for the Greenville Chamber Foundation to help support internships for the last couple of years. The first year that we utilized the money, we helped nonprofits to be able to hire students during the summer, and that was very successful. Bank of America requested that we try to engage not just nonprofits, but for-profit companies. And as I was trying to think through what that could look like, I thought I didn't want to just open it up to anyone. So I was like, what if we take our MBA graduate companies, of which there are about 100, and marry that with our Launch Greenville initiative and utilize some of this funding to really engage opportunity youth who may not be first in line for some of these internships and may not have that social capital they need to really get the work experience that's going to help them perform better. So we have money from Bank of America. We also were able to write a grant last year and receive funding for this year from United Way as well. And again, the big idea, as I mentioned, was to bring these two wonderful programs together and see what we can make out of it. So I'm very excited because, as Carlos also mentioned, one of the biggest struggles that we have with Launch Greenville is business engagement. So figuring out different ways to engage our business community is important to continuing to grow this program and to have more students have opportunities. So the pilot program, after talking with the school district, we decided that bringing together the MBA graduate companies with opportunity youth, we would do that with Carolina High School and Berea High School. Again, paid, meaningful work experiences and mentorship. So this is really intended to give these students a taste of what working in your business might look like. And the other thing that we have seen in working with interns is these students are incredibly talented and hungry to learn. And I think if that is something that you can get in front of you, you can teach them what they might need to know. So again, you can tell I'm excited about this program and I'm looking forward to it. I've been waiting a year to get this program off the ground. So these are the slides that I do not want to scare you because there are a lot of steps in here. And please feel free as I go through these, if you have questions, to ask them. Hank, if you'll help me watch for folks to question or raise their hand or drop something in the chat, I would appreciate it. So the very first step is to visit the Launch Greenville website. I would like to show you the site if I can do that without messing up technology in all sorts of strange and fun ways, because I think you will get an appreciation for what that looks like. Hang on just a second. I tell you what, I'm going to show you that at the end once I get through the PowerPoint, and that way I won't have to switch back and forth. But on the website, there's a page for businesses. You create an account, very much like you would if you were going to post a position on Indeed. Once that account is created, you'll get an email confirmation. You will go back to that same page and sign in, and then you'll create a position description. This position description will then live on our positions page. We will differentiate these positions somewhat from our other positions, at least for the students, and the way that we recruit students. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But that's the way that we get started. That's actually other than saying, yes, I want to do this, that's your very first step. That position description helps me to know what it is you're looking for. And it also helps the school district to know what types of students, what skill sets, what interests to be able to share with them and to make sure that we're getting a good pool of candidates for you. Again, I know this is a tremendous amount of data and this is not what I would normally do on a slide. You will get an email with all of this information. Lori or Lorraine, would either one of you like to speak to this slide? I'm happy to do it, but if you have comments, please jump in, okay?
Sure, I can speak to the overall process. So
okay.
As positions are posted by companies, we also have an internal system that we use, that all students use, where they can look for career opportunities. And it's been a very effective system. So I would say since we kind of revamped our process in October, we have had almost 1,000 students look at different opportunities. So there's a lot of traffic and students are looking for things, and we probably get anywhere from 5 to 10 applications a week that we keep a database of. So once we have a good number of students who are interested in a particular position, then we reach out to the company and we set up an interview time that we've done these virtually, which is really cool for us because we're able to view the interview and help students along the way. So it's really value added. Even if the student is not chosen for the position, they still get all of the onboarding process, the orientation, the work-based learning coordinator like Lori works hand in hand with the student and helps them refine their resume, prepares them for the interview, make sure they understand how to dress professionally, how to shake a hand, how to follow up after an interview. So the process is really valuable for students. And then once interviewed and selected, then the beauty of this program is that you have a point of contact within the school district to help you with that intern during the process. So that would be Lori. And so she checks in, there's an evaluation that takes place, there's a training plan. So a lot of little pieces and parts to work-based learning, but she's an expert and she's wonderful with students. And so it's a very positive experience for the company and for the student because of that support. If I didn't cover something, Lori, please jump in.
So essentially what I do is when I meet with a company, I find out what their needs are. And then I also work with the schools. And in this case, that would be Carolina and Berea to marry or to match those students' skill sets, and especially what they might have a career interest in. So say you have a student that is interested in business. My goal would be to find an internship or a co-op experience that would allow them to participate with a company that would give them that experience. And so many times that confirms their career choice, or in some cases, it allows them to choose a different course of action, which in the long run saves everyone a lot of time and effort. For our companies, it is a great way to bring their pipeline of talent coming as what Cheryl was saying, sometimes it's hard to find that talent. And so starting at the high school level with these students that are so interested in getting that experience is a perfect match. I will work with that company in doing a work-based learning startup survey to find out exactly what they're looking for as far as skills, as far as a job description, as far as, pay, hours, all that type of thing. So that's something that happens initially. We come up with a training plan that Lorraine had talked about that includes that information. So we're on the same page so that I can talk to students and make sure that allows for their schedule. We do right now have a release for COVID. So that really does protect our business or industry partners from any kind of legal action. Hopefully we're on the other side of COVID soon and we will not have to be utilizing that. We do also have a background check that we do for people that will be directly supervising those students, and that is for the protection of the student. And then let me just see here, the employer agreement, we do have an employer agreement. So all of this can be done now electronically. We have moved to an electronic system that makes it very easy for employers to be able to complete this online. Again, very quickly. We are trying to make it as easy as possible for companies to provide these opportunities because we know how life-changing they can be for students.
So this is Hank. I'm going to open up for questions right now for a second. Cheryl's internet went down and she's trying to rejoin the conversation, at least by phone, if not via internet. So questions from the audience at this point while we await her return?
This is Holly from Breakco. I was just curious, when, what's the time frame to start this particular run of the program? When would the interns ideally begin?
Okay.
That's a very good question. So we have about 9 weeks left of school before summer break. So if it's something that we want to take advantage of right now, I would say in the next few weeks, we would want to get that started. So a student can complete a 40-hour internship, which is the minimum requirement for this opportunity, within about 5 or 6 weeks. A lot of the students that participate in these programs are seniors, and so many seniors are finished midday with their coursework, and they're available to work for you in the afternoon. So, 3 or 5 hours a week for 5 to 6 weeks would get us to that target. If we're looking at junior students, they are at a full day of school, so their times to work are a little bit different, but it kind of depends on how quickly you all show interest, and then working together with Lori and I to get some of that initial paperwork completed, having the interview, and moving forward. We can go through the steps pretty quickly. I would say the most time we want to spend is advertising the opportunities, because teenagers, by their very nature, they're hard to get it's hard to get their attention sometimes. So we have to do all the things to tell them about these opportunities, and that may take a couple weeks to get the right candidate pool.
Exactly. And I work very closely with the school guidance counselors, both at Berea and Carolina. So I think that will be extremely beneficial in assisting with getting the right candidate, because they know their students better than anyone. And so being able to find out the skill set that the companies need and engaging that conversation with counselors is going to be key for me in making that connection. So in previous discussions, Cheryl and I had talked about doing, let's see, I'm looking at it right now, the notes that we had, about 10 hours per week. And so in order for us to make that 40-hour commitment where that student would receive credit on their transcript to be college and career ready, would be the 40 hours. So that's really typically 4 weeks if you're going to be doing 10 hours a week. So that can be very flexible. So, if you have a particular week or a project that is going to require, less hours or more hours or different days, we try to be very flexible with a company. And also there's typically a lot of flexibility with a student. We have a lot of work-based learning opportunities now that have gone from being in person to being remote, or a hybrid of both. And so the flexibility is key right now, I think, for businesses to be able to provide these opportunities, and we're willing to work with you and how that looks for your company.
Thank you, Lori. I apologize. My internet just has completely quit working. I'm not sure that there's not someone working out in the yard and just cut the cord. But thank you, Lorraine and Lori. I know they gave great information. Hank, what slide are we on?
Let's see. I think we could be anywhere. Let me share my screen.
Anywhere's good.
Anywhere. Let me give me 1 minute, please. I will.
Probably, I may need to speak just a little bit about the business piece, process step 3.
Let's see, 1 second, please.
Lorraine and Lori may have gone over some of this as well.
Share screen. Give me 1 minute. If you'll keep talking, give me a second and I'll get things arranged here.
Lori did mention the 40 hours for the state. We have set the minimum that we would like for students to participate in this program at 50. Again, 40 is what they need for that, to check that career readiness box for the state of South Carolina. But in terms of hours, we are also open to having the students work more than 50 hours. As Robert and I talked yesterday, it was clear that for his company, he would need somebody there more hours than that, just because of the amount of time that it would take to come up to speed. So as you look at your position description and are creating a thought about the time frame and what type of hours that you would like, you can send that to me, or in that position description, talk about the number of hours that you would be interested in. And then as I get all of the companies, as I get all of that in, we'll be able to weigh that out based on the grant money that we have available, because we would like If we have fewer students, we want to have them have a bigger experience. If we get more students and more companies, then we have to spread that out just a little bit more. So we are open to being flexible about that. In terms of rate of pay, again, that is something that the company, as the business owner, you're going to have to help us determine. We would like to see the pay be somewhere between $10 and $12 at a minimum. Some companies, it may be more than that, just based on the fact that what makes sense. So again, that is also something that can be flexible in terms of what we are able to do. So we are on slide 2.
Can you see that appropriately, yes. Cheryl? Okay.
Yeah, I think I imagine Lorraine and Lori covered that pretty well.
Okay, slide 2.
And I'm not sure if they talked about this or not, but there is some paperwork that the school district requires, which includes an evaluation. You'll have you'll establish 3 to 5 skills that the students would be working on while they are working with you, and then they will also be evaluated on a list of basically 21st century work skills that any employer is going to want a student to have. One thing that I would like to just talk about at this point, in the fact that we are going to be working with students who may not be coming to you with some of those skill sets, we do ask that you engage them in a way where you're helping to mentor them and hopefully helping to grow some of those skills for them. So we have a lot of students in the district and that have participated in Launch Greenville in the past that I would say are high flyers. They know how to talk, they know how to dress, they know how to do all of the right things. Some of these students may not be those students and they have lots of potential, but may not have had that that guidance that they need to really bring out that potential. So that is something that, as you approach this, and if you have questions or concerns about that, we can definitely, there's some things that we can do to help a business with that. If any of you are interested in creating a virtual internship, we actually have a, excuse me, we have a webinar that we are hosting in conjunction with a group called Intern Bridge. And if that is something that you are interested in, then we can help to facilitate that for you as well. So in step 4, again, I realize I'm giving you a lot of information. This will come to you in an email, but what we plan to do at this point is to host a signing day. We want to make sure that we are able to capture this moment for both the businesses and the students. We have the opportunity to assist with funding for students if they need help with clothing, or maybe it's steel-toed shoes or uniform or transportation. So some of this grant money would be able to help with any barriers that students may encounter. As we mentioned, we will reimburse for the wages for the students. If it is a hardship for your company to be reimbursed, just reach out to me and we can talk about how we may be able to do something a little different there. We would ask that you complete a survey. We always want to be working on process improvement. And then we're also going to provide as much marketing and recognition to the businesses, the students, and the funders, and our partners at Greenville County Schools as we can. Okay. So now is the point for questions.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Hi, I have a question. So just thinking about different socioeconomic backgrounds, is it a good assumption to assume that students will be provided resources like computers if we're, a remote company, or would that be part of the reimbursement for the company if a student does need a computer to do the work?
I think that's something we would have to evaluate on an individual basis. in terms of the company. But Hank, do you have any insight there? I think for some of our companies that are having students work remotely, they are providing that student with a laptop. In terms of this program, that's something we would need to look at.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And all students in Greenville County schools do have Chromebooks. So if it's something that is Google-based, they're able to do that work and do have internet, because a lot of our learning right now is remote due to COVID.
And Lorraine, they would have those over the summer as well, or not?
That's a great question. In the past, they have not had access to those over the summer. So
Okay.
if we're looking at a summer internship, we would need to have devices for those students.
Okay. So those are definitely some things that we can work out.
Good question.
Any questions? I do apologize again for my internet. It's still gone. So.
Cheryl, this is Nika. And I would imagine that this probably will come closer to time once the companies have decided to fully participate and they, going through the onboarding process. But what's in scope of the parameters of the high school interns? Like, so for example, if there are certain organizations that may have a need for the intern to get into a vehicle and drive somewhere, do we need to kind of not have task that involves driving or transportation in mind? Just give us some of those key parameters that we may need to have in our consideration set as we're thinking about how to engage in this opportunity.
Okay. I think that we will have to make the assumption that some of these students will not have their own transportation for sure. In terms of being able, we have had students in the past, and Lorraine and Lori, please jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but we have had students who did move from place to place as a part of their internship. Sometimes there's just a form that needs to be signed, a waiver by the parents for that type of thing. So again, Nick, I think it's a great question, and one of those things that we will need to address sort of on a case-by-case basis in terms of what access the student has, and then what the requirements would be for your particular position you would have them doing.
And certainly I can tell you that I have had students that have had transportation with the employer during the internship. And as long as we have that permission piece completed by the parents or guardians, and also the background check completed for the person who will be in the car with that particular student, that is what we've done in the past. And I'm assuming, Lorraine, that that's how we're going to be proceeding in the future.
It's a great question, Nika. I appreciate that. And I know that that wasn't a firm answer, but it's something that I think we can work through.
I would encourage the companies here too to look at the LaunchGVL website and look at some of the positions that are listed, especially the job descriptions, because that's going to give you a good idea of what we are asking students to do and what they're capable of doing. You'd be surprised what a 17-year-old is able to do. So many of them are doing market research, database management, calling clients, managing projects and tasks. So the scope is pretty wide for what these students are able to accomplish within your companies.
We have students working in the legal field, the manufacturing, you name it. We've got students working there. Other questions or comments? Anything that I might have missed that you would like to know that I didn't cover?
What are the dates again, or is that also kind of fluid?
So we would, I would say that we would like to know if you're interested in participating, but by the end of next week for sure. If you are looking to bring a student on for spring, our time is getting short. And by that Lorraine, you may want to speak to that timing, but I know in terms of getting any student through that 40 hours, we are quickly running out of time because the paperwork would need to be done by the middle of May. Is that right, Lorraine?
That is correct. And we also have spring break in there for our students. So sooner is better if you're looking at spring, but certainly we could pivot to summer.
Yes, so I think some of you are definitely looking towards summer, and it could be, if it's a junior, it could be both. We could get someone started in spring and they can roll into summer. So it's not an either or, it can be and. So we would, but I think for our purposes, we would want to know if you want to participate. And then as we develop out those positions, you think about what works best for your company in terms of time.
And I'll just add to that, Cheryl. I mean, we are pretty quick on being able to take a business and marry that student and have it rolling. I mean, we do this. This is what we do all day. So it's not something that has to be weeks and weeks and weeks. If you know you're ready to go, I can meet with the guidance counselors. We can rock and roll. And I think when Cheryl and I initially talked, we had said that if we knew that we had a company that was interested, that we could probably start either the end of this month or that week after spring break, which is April the 12th, as a start date, and still have enough time at 10 hours a week to complete that for seniors. So for seniors, if you're looking to build your talent pipeline and you're looking for someone that's a senior that may be able to roll right into your organization, if everything works well and that's your desire and the student's desire, then I can make that happen for you. We do this all day long, and it is again something that the counselors are on board. They're aware of this. We have good relations with the students. The students are aware of the program of Launch Greenville, and many of them have already applied. So the paperwork part, that's easy.
Other questions?
As far as the recording with the processes, 1, 2, and 3, will we have access to this just to review those, or will this be on the LaunchGVL.org site?
I will send, in fact, I'll send the PowerPoint, and I have this in a document as well, Myson.
Thank you.
And also, when you visit the website, it will be more clear. And I apologize again, I didn't get to show you the website, but it's pretty simple and pretty intuitive to use.
Already created an account, so I agree.
Look at you.
Carol, there's a question in the chat. The employees, the students will be considered 1099 employees, correct?
I'm not sure the answer to that question. Lorraine, do you have? I think that depends on how you how the company chooses to bring them on to your payroll.
I'm not 100% sure how to answer that question too. I think 1099 is a little bit more complicated for the student. Am I correct, Lori?
Yeah, most of them are, just typical part-time employees of the particular company. So if there is an arrangement with a grant, I'm not quite sure exactly what type of tax reporting or form is used in that situation.
I believe that, and Hank, you're welcome to jump in here since you were more involved in the nonprofit companies that we worked with in the past with the reimbursement. But I think in the past it's been that the company brings the student onto their payroll, but then the reimbursement would come directly to the company.
That's the way it operated in the past. They would be employee of the company. They'd submit paperwork to us on a periodic basis, whether the end of every month or the end of the session, however they want to do it. And then we would generate a check for the company based on whatever documentation they had of the hours of the intern. So it's fairly simple.
And I had a question about that. So W-2s instead of 1099s, and we would need to also have them covered under workers' comp and general liability insurance with the company?
The school district covers general liability.
Okay.
Any student who is involved in work-based learning underneath the school district is covered under general liability, but for workman's comp, yes. And again, if that is a barrier for you, make sure you talk to us about that, and we'll see if we can help to facilitate that.
So typically I'll answer that too, because there's been a change and we do have workers' comp for companies that have fewer than 40 employees. So if you are a small business and you you do not have that coverage, that's something that Greenville County Schools can now cover. Typically a company that has more than 40 employees already has workers' comp.
Lori, that's awesome news. That's good to know.
It's breaking news.
I know that is breaking news. I'm excited. These are great questions. Any questions, comments?
And Cheryl, if you want to take the risk of me trying to share my screen again, I could show the site if you wanted to navigate around that.
That would be great. I can't navigate, but you can navigate for
You
me.
can show me where you want to go.
Just go to the main page first.
Okay, do you see that?
It's coming. There we go.
This other way. 1 second.
So this is our Launch Greenville website. You can see the career clusters, and within those career clusters are a lot of pretty much all careers are embedded in those. The next place I'd like for you to go, Hank, would be, let's look at the business page.
For business, okay.
So this is your first stop. And as Myson said, he's already created an account. So you can see this is a 2-step process. You create the account. Once you create the account, you will get an email basically saying, hey, you're good to go to create a position description. Then you will, yeah, thank you, Hank. Some of this information will come just to us. It will not be public on the positions page, and we'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. So that's the initial information for step 1. Step 2 is to come back and then I think it's sign in, isn't it, Hank?
It is. Do you
Okay,
want to go there?
Sure.
Okay. I'm not sure where it goes. So fairly simple.
Yeah. And so then that's where you would put in your username and password. And then the next step would be to create the position description, which is very well outlined in terms of what it is asking for. So I'll show you what a position description looks like on our positions page. Let me see. Trying to think. Okay, so this is how the positions show up. This is what the students will see, or the parents, or anyone who is looking at the site. Lori and Lorraine, is there one on here? I know some of them don't have a lot of information and some of them have a lot more information.
You know what I thought might be a good idea, and I'm just throwing this out. Holly, I know that Brighton Company has been a Launch Greenville participant for a long time. Would you be willing to talk through that process with the other companies?
Sure. The process of setting up the job description?
Essentially just your experience.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it really, I don't think we've actually created a description in this system before. We had a form that we filled out and sent in, but and then it was loaded onto the website. But I think when we started this, the website also looked very different. But I mean, just the process was pretty easy because people like Lori and Lorraine, they take care of everything. And with the schools, they're finding the students that kind of fit the descriptions. And the students are kind of looking at your job description and saying, oh, that sounds interesting to me. I think I'd like to interview for that. And then we would have an interview day. And there were times we had a dozen different students to interview. So could be kind of brutal some days, exhausting, but these kids are so smart. And there were times that it was just so difficult to choose one because, we're a small enough company that one is about all we can handle at a time. But then, bringing them on, super easy. The work-based learning coordinator typically would come with the student for the first time to the office and we'd walk through the paperwork and kind of set up our work schedule. And then, it was pretty easy after that. Every so often you would have to fill out a little evaluation on the student. You need to also fill out like their timesheet so that you know that you're on track to fill those hours to meet their requirements. And every now and then I'd get a phone call from the work-based learning coordinator, just, checking in. How are things going? Do you need anything? And it's been a really positive experience for us. In fact, our last intern, we've kept on as a part-time employee. He's been with us 2 years now.
Right. That's what we like to hear. That's awesome.
Thank you, Holly.
Sure.
So when you're on that positions page, you can click any of those positions and you'll pull up the information that the much more detailed information that you can then see. And like Lori said, those are great examples. If you have any questions about what a company might be looking for. Hank, scroll on down and do Epic.
Oh, hang on. I'm sorry. I just chose many of
It's fine. That's fine. Go ahead and just show them that one. Show them not. So when you create that position, all this information is just outlined.
So very, very easy to read and understand, and for the students to understand and respond to, right?
Correct. And I would say the more information you provide, the better it helps Lori to be able to work with those counselors and those students to have a good fit. But you do get to interview. Typically, we shoot to have 4 to 6 candidates. Not sure if we'll have as many for this, but we are definitely going to try. You do get to make your own selection of student and then bring them on board.
And sometimes it's so hard to choose.
Yes, then
all
you
of
get
the
to choose
talent, and so
two.
you hire two. So Epic
That's
is a
it.
great example of they wanted one student to help with some support for their company, and the girls that applied for the job, there were 4 of them. They were all very competitive, and that company decided to hire 2 interns. So that was a win for a lot of people.
We've had a couple of companies do that in the last couple of months.
2 questions, if I may.
Yes.
Dr. White asked the question about internships when they take place. So I know the deadline is approaching pretty soon for spring, but if we wanted to begin in the summertime, what was that rough deadline for June and July internships?
I think from a planning perspective, we would want to know that you want to participate for summer, still within in a week or two, so that we can make sure that we are recruiting, because once the students leave school, it gets very hard. So we want to make sure that we have everything in place for that student to be ready to start in June. So again, we don't have to work quite as fast and furious to get them ready, but we want to make sure that we still have time to spend the time necessary with the students. But once exams start and those students start into that summer mode, it gets real hard to get in touch with them. Is that fair, Lori?
It's very true. And those, I want to be clear too, that it'll be juniors for summer. that we'll be targeting. Seniors would be for this spring, and then juniors for the summer.
I see a
Understood.
chat.
I can speak to that question in the chat. So we were just talking about this yesterday at a meeting. There is an evaluation piece at the end for both the employer to evaluate the student and then the student to evaluate the employer and give us some feedback. We definitely know that Gen Z, in fact, we just read a book, which I highly recommend, pull off my shelf, Answering Why by Mark Perna. It's a generational, he's a researcher, and he talks a lot about this particular generation and how they're a little bit different. And we have to do things a little bit differently with them, but there is some chance for feedback at the end of the interview or at the end of the experience on both sides of the experience.
Great, thank you.
Question about the reimbursement. Did I read correctly that up to $1,300 of the payment to the interns would be reimbursed?
Yes, and as I mentioned, we can, that could be flexible depending on how many companies and students we have engaged. So it could be that we can flex that up a little as needed.
Okay, thank you.
And that's another reason that knowing sooner than later the company's interest and how many hours and that type of thing is going to help us be able to say, hey, look, you can plan for 100 hours versus 50.
Got it.
These are great questions. Any others? All right. Well, there will be an email coming to you with all of this information. Please take some time, think about what you would be interested in doing. If you're ready, create that account, create a position description, and we can, again, this is a pilot program and it is not set in stone. We are learning as we go with this. And so we appreciate you being a part of this first go round and leading the way. And if you have other MBA companies that are folks that are friends of yours that would be interested and would be a good fit for this, please share it with them. We are in no way trying to limit those opportunities. The more companies we have, the more students get these opportunities. So that's what's so important is growing that pipeline of talent for companies and having that community engagement, and then really helping these students be successful in whatever comes next for them. And we are right on time. So if there's no other questions, I appreciate everyone taking the time to be here today. And if you have questions directly from me, please feel free to reach out, email, or give me a call, and we will handle those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl.